Sure. So healthcare stocks have been underperforming this year. In fact, it's been one of the worst years for relative performance for healthcare in the last 30 years. And that's driven by a couple of factors. First of all, everyone came into this year expecting a recession, so they had been defensively positioned. And then they've shifted now to thinking we're not going to have a recession. So everyone's been investing in AI stocks and technology stocks and pulled money out of healthcare. That's actually created an attractive backdrop because the valuations in the sector are at some of the lowest that we've seen. We've also seen another factor that's been hurting healthcare stocks this year is a COVID hangover, right? So we had a lot of excitement about COVID products. Last year we had $90 billion of sales for COVID, and this is the year the pandemic ended. The public health emergency ended, so all of those companies are seeing declining revenues. But we've now, after a few years of above trend growth, we've now had below trend growth. We see an outlook where we could have accelerating growth for the healthcare sector next year compared to decelerating growth for the rest of the market. So we think that actually sets up pretty well.
So journalists like me bandy around the term of the healthcare sector as if it was one sector, but of course it's not, is it? You say it's the sector where there's the greatest disparity between the number of winners and the number of losers. Can you briefly explain that dynamic to me?
Sure, absolutely. So healthcare is a sector, when you're thinking about therapeutics development, that's prone to extreme outcomes. You can have one drug that could be successful, that could sell multiple billions of dollars, and others that will just fail completely. The way that we think about that, actually over the last decade, the difference between the winners and losers in this sector is over 300% annually. And in biotech, it's even bigger. The top 5 stocks will be up almost fourfold in a year, while the worst 5 will lose almost 80% of their value. What drives that is something we call the 90-90 rule, which refers to the clinical and commercial risks of developing a new therapy. 90% of the drugs that begin human clinical testing never will make it to market. So you need a team of experts that can find the 1 out of 10 that will make it. And then for the drugs that actually get to market, what we've found in more than 20 years of investing in the sector is consensus estimates from Wall Street are wrong 90% of the time. So again, you have to figure out, are those estimates too high, in which case that's a stock you want to avoid, or are they too low, in which that's a stock that can outperform. So again, it takes really a team of experts to try to figure that out, but the rewards can be great if you can be successful.
Talk to me about AI. A lot of hype in every sector, particularly in healthcare. I was in a room with Satya Nadella recently here in the UAE and others who were very excited about the potential for AI in healthcare. You are a little bit more, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but tell me your approach to AI in healthcare.
Yeah, so the way we think about AI, it's sort of becoming a cost of doing business, right? So if you're developing a new drug, if you're trying to discover a new drug, AI can be incredibly helpful. And we're finding most companies now, they are starting to use AI tools to better discover drugs that are going to be more specific, more precise in terms of what they target. And so almost every company is starting to use that now. If you're not using AI, you're going to get left behind. On the other hand, it's difficult to find the companies that are really going to develop a sustainable competitive advantage because these tools are now fairly widely available. But we do think it will help drug discovery. When you think about clinical development, though, I think it will be many, many years until AI has a meaningful impact because the only way to know if a drug is going to work or not and if it's safe is to test it in patients, and often in hundreds or even thousands of patients, and it's going to be difficult for AI to really accelerate that process. So we do see it as important, but so far sometimes there's a lot of hype involved, and people get excited, oh, this company's using AI, but we think it's going to be difficult for companies to really differentiate based on how much AI they're using, because most of them will be using it.
Very quickly, a couple of quick questions. Within healthcare, so what are your top picks? And you published this in your fact sheet. What's your top pick and why?
Yeah, so I'll talk about a couple holdings. But we've been significant investors in companies like Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk. Those are both top 10 positions for us. We've actually owned those stocks for almost 10 years. And these companies are now making breakthroughs in the field of obesity. So they've been developing therapies for diabetes, but now we have treatments for obesity that can lead to 15 to 20% weight loss or even more than that. And what we just found out recently is that by losing weight, 15 to 20% of your weight, you can actually improve outcomes. So we've proven now you can lower the risk of heart attacks, strokes, and death by 20% or more by losing weight. This is a global pandemic, if you think about it. Obesity affects over 750 million people worldwide. That number is expected to grow to 1 billion people. And these are markets that are already over $30 billion and growing at 50% annually. In this country, in the UAE, like the US, 35% of the population is overweight or obese. So this is a huge problem, and we're now getting drugs that can lead to substantial weight loss that can actually improve outcomes.
Last question about ethics. There are some people who just don't like the idea of things like healthcare or education for profit. I know that pardon the pun, healthcare's in your blood, isn't it? Your family are from the medical profession. How do you address that?
Yeah, we always think about, we want all of the potentially affected groups to benefit, right? So we think about, are the patients going to benefit? Are the providers going to benefit? Are physicians going to benefit? Are payers going to benefit? We want all of these groups to experience a benefit from new therapies, new treatments, new services that can make healthcare more efficient. What we really focus on are the products that can change the practice of medicine by improving the lives of patients. If we can make patients function better, feel better, survive longer, that's a real benefit for society. If we can help patients to lose weight and make them healthier, that's going to benefit really everyone and also lower costs. So that gets us excited to invest.